Good morning, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Gone Fishin' on the Five Reasons Sports YouTube channel. As always, my name is Eric Wiedeke. You guys make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. It helps grow the channel, what we do, covering Inter Miami, covering the Marlins, covering the Dolphins, the Heat, the Panthers, the Canes, all that good stuff going on. But there is a lot of good stuff going on right now in Marlins land. Definitely a lighter note than what we were at last week. This week, the Marlins went 4-2. They lost both games to the Rays, and they swept the Nationals in Washington to bring their record on the season to 70-67. Currently in a tie for that third wild card spot. I'm going to get right into it. Your minor league players of the week. I have Victor Mesa Jr. down at AA. I hit 294. Had an 1157 OPS in 4 games, 3 homers, and your minor league pitcher of the week. Anytime a guy throws a no-hitter, you got to give him a shout-out. So I'm going to give Devin Smeltzer a shout-out. It wasn't a doubleheader, so it was only 7 innings, but a no-hitter nonetheless, so congratulations to him. And we're going to jump right into it right away, talking about the major league players of the week. You've got Luis Arraez. Really big bounce back week for him. 462 average, 500 on base, 615 slugging for an 1115 OPS. And then your pitcher of the week, again, another continuing good sign for a pitcher like Jesus Luzardo, going 6 innings, no earned runs, 8 Ks, 1 hit allowed. Unfortunately, that was not in a winning effort. But the Marlins do pull off the sweep of the Nats, so they find a way to entrench themselves a little bit in this wild card position. Obviously, last week around the same time that we were having this conversation, the Marlins were about 3 games out, so they have gained a little bit. But the thing that comes now is the tough road ahead, and I think the question of today is, or the question of just this time in general for the Marlins is, were there enough positive signs there to see that this can be carried over against better competition? Because I do understand that the Nationals coming into the series against the Marlins were one of the hotter teams in baseball. The Marlins had just seen them the week before and got summarily beat down pretty much in that series. But this time around, the Marlins take 4 straight, and they do it without Jorge Soler in the lineup, which I think is an interesting wrinkle. You just had a few guys kind of break out all at the same time. Brian De La Cruz, Sanchez had a few multi-hit games. He's been hitting better of late. Jake Berger had the multi-homer game. Obviously, Luis Arraez, as we mentioned, has been fantastic. So the offense has started to take a step, obviously, again, against inferior competition. I mean, the Nationals had been hot, but let's be honest. The Marlins are better than the Nationals still, regardless. And so they took care of business. They did exactly what they should do as a team in the playoff race. I think the pitching has started to come around a little bit. You've got Braxton Garrett giving you pretty consistent good starts. He had 6 innings, 1 earned run against the Nationals the other day. Sandy gave you 8 innings. I mean, it was an adventurous 8 innings for Sandy, but he got you there. Only 2 earned runs for him. Fantastic start. Again, just showcasing that, I don't know, there's just a certain, it's just sheer power of will with Sandy, just pushing through the starts, getting through 7, 8 innings, even when he might not have his best stuff, not at his sharpest. So you got to love that out of Sandy. Johnny Cueto made his return, and he was ho-hum. He was every bit the Johnny Cueto that we remembered. So that was a positive sign for them. The bullpen was much better this week. David Robertson even made an appearance in the 6th inning. Had a pretty clean outing. Andrew Nardi continues to pitch well. Tanner Scott has done pretty well in that closer spot. It hasn't been, pretty always, but he's done the job for the most part there. And then, so I want to dive a little bit further into the Marlins road ahead here, because at 70-67, they are tied for that third wild card spot. but specifically their next 12 games are make or break for the season. At 70 and 67, you've got 25 left, and half of your remaining 25 pretty much are 3 at home versus the Dodgers, 3 on the road in Philly, 3 on the road in Milwaukee, 3 at home in Atlanta. So you've got 3 division leaders and wild card 1 right there. So it's going to be put up or shut up time for the Marlins. Are they in or are they out? This is going to, I don't know what they're going forward, what they're going to do, whether that means Jorge Soler is coming along. I'm a little worried about that because it's been almost a week since we've seen him now with that tweaked hip. And so I'm just wondering if maybe there is an IL stint on the horizon for Soler, even though I can tell that that seems like it's something they're trying to desperately avoid. And then additionally, there is some interesting news. So the Marlins probable starters in LA is you've got Luzardo, then you've got a blank spot on Wednesday. And if you put 2 and 2 together, you look at who would be on 5 days rest at AAA on Wednesday. Well, it'd be our old friend Eddie Cabrera. And so if the Marlins are intending to call up Edward Cabrera, they might be going to a 6-man rotation, potentially to give Yuri a little bit more time, to give guys a little bit more rest in case they do end up making the playoffs. Obviously, Jesus Luzardo kind of hit a little bit of a wall here a couple weeks ago, but hopefully he seems to be past that now. The same thing happened with Braxton Garrett about a month and a half ago. And haven't seen the same thing happen yet to Yuri Perez. So we're all staying hopeful for that. Fingers crossed on that one. But I want to talk about Edward Cabrera and what he did in the minors a little bit. Spent pretty much the entire month of August in the minors. He went 3-1 with a 2.22 ERA, 30 strikeouts, 12 walks in about 28 and a third innings, roughly 9 strikeouts per 9, a little under 4 walks per 9. Not ideal, realistically, in terms of the ratios there. You'd like him to be 3 walks per 9, maybe at the most. His career low was last year when he did have that really solid year, pitched to a low 3 ERA. So he was at 4.1 at that point. He's a little under 4 in his time in the minors. So maybe they did find something that can potentially spark him to have better success at the big league level this time around. They're going to need him. I think going with a 6-man rotation, it gives everybody in your stable a little bit more rest, starters and relievers, because when the starters are more rested, they're more fresh, they're more likely to go longer. And so they're more likely to give your relievers a little bit of a greater rest as well. So that's going to be one interesting part of this, is kind of reintegrating Cabrera, especially at this time when the schedule toughens up the way that it does. And then additionally, I do want to talk about the call-up of Xavier Edwards, and I think that's pretty interesting too, because I think what you saw from the Marlins this 4 games in Washington is actually a pretty interesting peek into a potential future with this team. And I want to get into that a little bit more. You saw them kind of get creative with Jorge Soler out of the lineup and his kind of DH bat not being available. And so what you saw the Marlins, the outfield stayed the same, but you saw Jake Berger at third, some combination of Joey Wendell, John Birdie, Garrett Hampson at short, Xavier Edwards at second, Luis Arraez at first, and Josh Bell DHing. And particularly for that infield, I do think that infield there, I think that's if I'm getting into the mind of the Marlins, in a world in which Jorge Soler walks and declines his option, we've gotten indications that Soler and his reps want to make something happen in Miami with the Marlins. We have not received much indication at this point as to how urgently the Marlins want to make that happen on their end. And going further, we don't know how much money they would be willing to put on the table for Soler. Theoretically, they could offer the qualifying offer in the offseason, which is around $19 million on a 1-year deal. And then if he does end up walking, the Marlins would get a compensation pick for that. But I do think that it's interesting that you see, especially with Xavier Edwards playing second base, I do think that that's the long-term home for him, at least in the eyes of the organization. There are some, whether it's center field, shortstop, second base. Personally, I'm not too concerned about the defense aspect of it, especially on a team like the Marlins where you need as much offense as possible. And I think Xavier Edwards definitely provides that. He continues to play well when they do play him. He drop down a nice bunt, get yourself a double. Just things that he does just really well. He gets on base, he makes things happen, puts bat on ball. Really good eye at the dish. So I do think that the traits with Xavier Edwards will carry over, and I think that he will be a starter on this team next year, probably at the second base position, especially if Soler walks. Then you look at Arise at first, Bell at the DH spot, Berger at third. Shortstop needs to be sorted out, because you're not going into next season with John Birdie, Joey Wendell, and Garrett Hampson at the position. At least I refuse to believe so. And with Joey Wendell being pretty much a free agent, I don't think that they intend on really bringing him back anyways. But I think it does create a little bit of a, not an issue, but it does, moving Arise to first temporarily kind of solves that middle infield issue for you a little bit, makes it a little bit less messy, because now pretty much Edwards would be your second baseman. And then it's just about finding, okay, we got to find a true shortstop, rather than, well, we could play Edwards at short, we could play Arise at second, maybe we'll move Arise back to first. You're getting, either way, you might be getting clarity on that one way or another for the future of this team. But I think, it simplifies things. It makes the mission, go and get a shortstop, go and get a catcher. And preferably good ones. Your outfield is all right. It's passable. But you need, and one of those pieces, the shortstop and the catcher, has to be a premium bat. One of them. They don't both have to be, but one of them does, at least in my mind, to make this offense sustainable going into next season. Because you look at what it would be Xavier Edwards, it would be Luis Ariz, it'd be Jazz, it'd be DLC, it'd be Jesus Sanchez, Jake Berger, Josh Bell, and then you would fill in the gaps. And I'd like one of those guys to be a really solid bat for this team. The other guy can be more defensive minded, probably the catcher. I think it's easier just to find a shortstop that can handle the bat a little bit better. But I do think that was an interesting peek into the future for the Marlins. They've got a really tough schedule ahead. The 3-game set in LA starting tonight in Miami at 6:40. Jesus Luzardo versus Clayton Kershaw on the bump. That is a premium matchup. And I do want to just get into getting us out a prize pick of the day here for this ball game against the Dodgers. And it's going to be a combination. I'm going to go with first inning runs allowed between Jesus Luzardo and Clayton Kershaw. I'm going to go less than that. Both of these guys are some of the highest quality lefty pitchers in the game. So I do think that we're going to be in for something that's a little bit lower scoring today, even with the high-powered Dodgers offense and the Marlins offense starting to come alive. I think we're going to look at something that's going to be a little bit lower scoring today. And do not forget that when you do go to Prize Picks, especially if you're a first-time user, use promo code 5 for a first-time deposit match up to $100. That is FIVE. And so that'll be it for this week, guys. We will be back next week, hopefully on the backside of a couple of series wins against LA and Philadelphia. Thank you guys so much for watching, and we will see you next time. Bye-bye.